Gardner, co-chair of the forum, along with Leslie Currens. Our forums occur most Sundays at noon, except during the summer, July and August. They are free and open to the public, and we encourage you to attend. For more information about our forums, please go to our church website at www.austinuu.org. And now, Leslie Currens is going to introduce today's speaker. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yes, today we're very honored to have Alan Graham speaking to us. He is the CEO and founder of Loaves and Fishes, which is an organization that serves the homeless. Mobile Loaves and Fishes is a social outreach ministry committed to providing permanent, sustainable solutions for chronically homeless people with compassion, love, and dignity. For more than 15 years, Alan and teams of volunteers have been delivering meals with a side of hope to the homeless and working poor on the streets of Austin, San Antonio, and elsewhere. For the past 9 years, Mobile Loaves and Fishes has also been providing housing to the homeless through its Community First program. Founded in 1998 by Graham and 5 friends, Mobile Loaves and Fishes has served nearly 3.5 million meals. And they have more than 17,000 volunteers, and I'm sure always looking for a few more. Mobile Loaves and Fishes is the largest prepared feeding program to the homeless and working poor in Austin. Now we're going to view a quick DVD, and then Alan will begin speaking. Thanks.
We're not called to be successful. We're called to be faithful. So my prayer, really and truly, is that I be faithful to the Lord God. For the past 14 years, Mobile Loaves and Fishes has been going out into the bowels of the streets of Austin, Texas, serving those who are chronically homeless. We've been doing our best to be faithful, and through God's abundant blessing, we've learned some pretty big lessons. Broken family. It is genuinely the number one cause of homelessness. A broken family means there's no support system, nobody to pull them up off the streets. So for 14 years, we've been really acting as their family, pulling people up off the streets and into housing. Housing that they pay rent on. We just help them get into housing, like Linda and her husband, Tony. We have helped dozens and dozens of people come up off the streets who see hope being restored into their lives. And then we figured out how we could help the homeless get work. Simple but meaningful jobs, like my brother Glenn here, who was a master carpenter before and has become one again. This is all part of restoration. So now God is pointing us to something even bigger. A plan that takes all of these past efforts and elevates them to a whole new level. A plan that could revolutionize the housing movement in the United States. We're calling it Community First. This is the development that Mobile Loaves and Fishes is most excited about. And we need partners to help us pull this off. What we're building is a 27-acre master plan community that will house about 200 people. Refurbished RVs, park model homes, some very nice canvas-sided guest cottages, and what we call tiny houses or micro homes that have been developed in partnership with the University of Texas School of Architecture. And as an awesome aside, the San Jose Hotel and the Alamo Draft House are coming up alongside of us to help us develop out a bed and breakfast type of model for a small portion of the property. Community First will be rich in amenities, including a church, a giant garden area, chickens producing eggs, a workshop, and a fully equipped medical facility where the medical community, including dentists, doctors, therapists, and other volunteers, will be able to come in and meet the health needs of our residents. Everything about our Community First Village is working towards a holistic approach because the people that we're trying to serve have been living on the streets for an awfully long period of time. Their physical health, their mental health have been ravaged by that environment, yet they are so loved. Like us, they are God's beautiful but broken children, God's estranged family. They have a strong desire, just like the Jews in Egypt, to be home. And in a way, this is their exodus out of the streets, out of an environment where they're unsettled, living under the girders of I-35 at Ben White Boulevard, and into a promised land, as best as we could do that here on a broken earth. There's hope. And that hope, it comes when we listen to God's call. We know that He's commanded us to go out and serve the least of our brothers and sisters. And so that's simply what we're doing, serving God by serving those in need. That's why this property is so incredibly important. We want to be faithful on the path that He's laid before you and I. To make this dream, this vision become a reality, we need people to come up alongside of us. We need you.
Well, it's awesome to be here, and what I wanted to do is kind of take you through a philosophical journey that maybe when we go home tonight we can marinate on why what we're seeing out on our street corners is actually occurring. And so I want to share with you what Mobile Loaves and Fishes profoundly believes. When I got to Austin in 1976, I thought I was coming to Nirvana, and I still believe that I live in Nirvana. I think it's the greatest city in the nation, and it's a place that I call home. But that's not necessarily where I came from, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We believe at Mobile Loaves and Fishes that the single greatest cause to homelessness, almost uniquely in the United States of America, is a profound, catastrophic loss of family. It's not addictions. It's not mental health issues. It's not affordable housing. It's not living wages. As important as these issues are as issues of justice in our economy, and they are very important, they're not necessarily the causal factor of homelessness. We believe that addictions and mental health issues and affordable housing and living wage issues are already embedded into all of our families. So I want to share with you a little bit about my family and where I come from in order to maybe better understand where Mobile Loaves and Fishes is coming from. I was born in 1955, and I am one of four boys from my mom, Hallie Graham, and my father, John Graham. The only memory that I have of my mother and father together as a husband and wife under the same roof was in about 1959 when I was 4 years old. And my mom was standing on her bed with a knife in her hands, threatening my father. The next thing I know, my mom is in the hospital. And my mom is in the hospital for a year period of time. So I was 4 years old. I had a 7-year-old brother and an 8-year-old brother, and then I had a younger brother who was 1 year old at the time. And so if you can imagine having your mother, and plenty of us have these kinds of experiences in our life, taken away for an entire year period of time during the period when nurturing should be at its highest level, this is what we got to experience. During that year period of time, my mother was subjected to the most powerful psychotropic drugs ever invented, by man, as well as suffered a number of electric shock therapies in order to be able to deal with the mental health issues that she had going on in her life. My dad, in his unbelievable wisdom, elected to serve my mother while she was hospitalized with divorce papers and unleashed the Armageddon of a custody battle for me and my brothers. And but my mom had something that a lot of people don't have. She had an awesome mother and father that loved her very deeply. They also had some resources that would allow them to battle this Armageddon of a custody battle. And my mom ended up winning back custody, and my brothers and I went back to stay with my mom. Now, we loved that because my mom was very liberal in her disciplinary actions. My dad was the disciplinarian, the spanker of the group. You actually need both of them together, kind of, but we would have preferred to be with my mom. By the time I was going to enter into the third grade, my mom was having another mental health breakdown. And so we went then again to live for another year with my father and my now there was a stepmother in the equation. And my father decided to unleash another Armageddon of a custody battle, and my grandmother and grandfather on my mom's side decided to come up underneath her again. And this was all about protecting her mental health, because I can't think of anything more catastrophic than a mom losing her children, no matter how those children are lost. My mom gets back out of the hospital, more psychotropic drugs, more electric shock therapy, but we went to live back with her, and the drugs were having an impact on who she was. My brothers and I are growing up. We're becoming more conscientious of who she is. The behavioral characteristics associated with her behavioral health disorder, and then the impact of the drugs on her life were taking a toll to the point that my brothers and I were actually embarrassed to be around her, and I'm embarrassed to even share that I was embarrassed, but it was the reality of it. By the time I was moving into the 8th grade, things were really falling apart in a huge way. My mom was just out of it. My brothers and I had almost complete control of that household. This was in the late 1960s, and all the stuff that was unfolding in the 60s was happening in our house. And I'll never forget Sunday morning, March 29th, 1970. I was 14 years old. A knock came on our front door, and I got up, and on my bedside were 2 tickets to see the rock band Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was touring on their Led Zeppelin 2 album, and I consider them today one of the greatest rock bands in history. I love Led Zeppelin, and I had 2 tickets to go see them at Puffine's Pavilion in Houston, Texas. I look out the window to see who was knocking on the door, and it was 3 Houston Police Department automobiles out there, and I knew that they were looking for me. And so I did what any 14-year-old would do. I hid in the closet, thinking that I wasn't going to be found, but I was found, and I was arrested for stealing cars. That's what me and my friends were doing at that particular time when I didn't have a mother and father that were on watch. And I remember being in the Houston police station and telling the booking officer that if you wouldn't mind calling my mom, I've got 2 tickets to go see Led Zeppelin. I'd like her to come pick me up. And there was just this kind of guttural chuckle, and he goes, I don't think you're going anywhere for quite some time. And sure enough, I was booked into the Harris County Juvenile Detention Center. I was there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days. My mother was in no shape at all to come and rescue me out of that situation. She was in the middle of a tremendous nervous breakdown, and I didn't know what my dad was going to do. 11, 12, 13, 14 days, and finally, my father came and got me. Finally, my father came and rescued me. I learned now that he wanted me to sit inside that environment for a while and marinate on who I was as a human being before he came and got me. And as dysfunctional as my family was at that point in time, it's very important to realize that my dad came and he got me and he was there. When you look at our brothers and sisters that are stranded out on our street corners, that happen to be frustrating us to no end as a community as to what it is that we can do about this, their story has a common denominator. And that common denominator is there was no one to come rescue them. There was no family unit. There was no dysfunctional family unit even to come and rescue them out of the environment that ultimately built up to be in this place where they happen to be right now. In 1981, I met one of the most beautiful human beings on the face of the planet. We were married in September of 1984. We will celebrate 30 years of marriage this year. We've only lived in one home at 1408 Redbud Trail in Westlake Hills, Texas. And we've raised 4 biological children in that home, as well as a niece, as well as an uncountable number of dogs and cats and some brothers and sisters that we helped bring up off the streets. So the rootedness of our family into this place that we call 1408 Redbud Trail is very important to us as a family. In fact, even the idea of selling this home missionally in order to be even drawn deeper into our community is something that's so abhorrent to our children that you would think that they actually own the home at 1408 Redbud Trail. And then in 2008, a book was published called Beyond Homelessness, Christian Faith in a Culture of Displacement, written by a couple of theologians, one out of Hope College in Michigan and another one from Toronto, an Episcopal priest. And the book was very powerful in kind of dissecting for me what it means to really be homeless. And in one of the chapters, they talked about the phenomenology of home. And within the phenomenology of home, there are 8 characteristics associated with home. One, home is a place of permanence. This is why my kids would absolutely go nuts if Trish and I were to consider selling this place. This is their home too, even though they're grown. You know, they want to be able to come back to this place where the roots, the tap roots, are so deep into the ground that to transplant this tree could potentially be catastrophic. Could it be done successfully? Perhaps. But even perhaps not. It would just disrupt everything that we are about. Home is a dwelling place. Home is not a hotel room. Home is not a weekly rate motel. Home is not a shelter. Home is not a transitional place where we happen to be here for 3 months and then we're going to go here for 5 months and then we're going to go here for another 10 months. Home is a place of embodied inhabitation. If you come into my home at 30 years, it's just infused with the 30 years that we've lived there. We've got the Father's Day mug that the kids made out of clay that never held coffee or water, that holds a prominent place. You got the thing on the wall where we measured each one of the kids as they were growing up, still there. You got the handprints on the clay things. We had face moldings done out of plaster of 3 of the 4 of our children. The 4th one refused to do it when it was time for him to do it. So everything about that home, there's this embodiment of our journey, living in this place that we call 1408 Redbud Trail. Living in that community for 30 years, if I'm going to do a strategic run into the HEB, I have to look down the aisleway to see if I see some friends, and I might hit another aisleway because I'm going to get stuck for 5 or 10 minutes talking to somebody. Home is a place of hospitality. We'd never welcome anybody into our home without wanting to share a drink, perhaps food. We get invited over for the Super Bowl party. It's not because of the queso. It's because of the fellowship. when I came into this beautiful facility, the first thing that they suggested is go into the hall and have some coffee. It's opening up hospitality. People are hospitable people, and they want to welcome you into their environment. Home is a place of safety and refuge. My home at 1408 Redbud Trail is a sanctuary. You know, it's where I'm the most comfortable. It's where we all feel safe inside that space. Home is a place of stories and memories. It's often said that the mortar that holds the bricks of even the most impoverished home are the stories and memories. And I've actually traveled into some third world countries and been in some spaces that you would just look at from the outside, like a dump in the middle of a community called Santa Fe in the middle of Mexico City, where 2,000 to 3,000 people, families live, harvesting the recyclables out of the refuse that are being thrown away. And it looks horrible, but when you dive into it, you see these multi-generational families living there, children that are smiles on their face with parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, all living in community together. Home is a place of stories and memories. Home is a place of orientation, no matter where I am in the world, and I've had the blessing over my lifetime to be in some awesome places. When that trip or that vacation is at an end, my compass is always oriented towards this place called home. In fact, if I wouldn't even have to get on an airplane and I could just be transported instantly to my living room, that would be preferable. Home is a place of orientation. And then, eighth and last, it turns out that home is a place of affiliation and belonging. You and I just like to be around people that are like us. And it's not a segregationist kind of a mentality. It's just that we gravitate to people who think like us. People that attend this church have a spiritual grounding that attracts you to each other. People that speak a different language than perhaps we. People that are Democrat or Republicans like to hang around with people that are Democrats or Republicans. You know, the right-wingers like to hang around the right-wingers and watch the right-winging TV, and then the left-wingers like to hang around the left-wingers and watch the left. People that are from similar cultural backgrounds like to be around people. And I tell you, people that have battled homelessness a lot, people that have battled addictions a lot, people that have battled mental health issues a lot like to be around other people that have those shared type of values. And this is kind of the foundation of the Community First Village. So I want to talk a little bit about Mobile Loaves and Fishes and our vision or our purpose statement. What it is that we do and what our core values are and how those lead into this community that we're developing. At the highest level, you know, we have a corporate vision statement. It's the unpublished statement. It's not on our website, but it's internal to everything that we do as an organization. The mission statement's out there for everybody to read. But the internal thing that drives us at our core is that we empower communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless. We empower communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless. We don't believe that you could just throw money at this issue called homelessness and build more housing or build more rehab deals. It's human beings that need to be touched and cared for and loved by other human beings. And so our whole mission is to empower you, to empower Austin, Texas, to dive in with us to the grittiness of human relationships. And it's gritty. It's gritty inside of our families. It's gritty inside of our churches. It's gritty inside of our places of employment. To jump in with us and get your hands dirty. We empower people into a lifestyle of service with the homeless, not to. We're not here just shoveling resources to the homeless. We're standing side by side. I was speaking with somebody that was in the garden just yesterday, and When that person was in the garden, they were being led by somebody that was either currently chronically homeless, living in the weeds right now, or they had formerly been chronically homeless and were now living in our Community First program. So now all of a sudden they're working side by side with each other, and they're learning from each other. They're marinating within each other. And then we have these core set of values. God, infinitely perfect and blessed in himself in a plan of sheer goodness, freely created man to make him share in his own blessed life. Number two, by virtue of being created by God in his image, we are all called to live in community, in relationship with him through each other. We can't connect with the guy upstairs without connecting to each other. It's the only way that we can serve our God, however we see our God. We believe very powerfully that the family is the original cell of social life. That's where everything flows. That's where the breakdown is within the chronically homeless. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. It's pretty simple. All members of the human family are equal in dignity and should be treated that way. And then the last of our core values comes out of the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 15. The Lord God took the man and settled him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate and care for it. First of all, I believe that God intends you and I to be settled. He wants us to be at peace with each other. He desires that our brothers and sisters not live under the girders of I-35 and Ben White Boulevard, or in shelters, or in urban camps without running water or running sewer. He desires our brothers and sisters to be settled. When you and I are settled, like I can tell you that the first 20-something years of my life were in total unsettlement. And then the balance of my life, the past 35, almost 40 years, have been in tremendous settlement. Has allowed me to look at the gifts that I've been blessed with, those gifts that are unique to Alan Graham, and be able to go out and leverage those gifts for the betterment of our community, for the betterment of the kingdom. And what we've witnessed over the past 10 years of lifting people up off the streets into a place of settlement is they want to work. And then we discover what their inherent gifts are and create that opportunity for them to do work. We believe that each of us were blessed at birth with an equal serving of gifts and talents from God, but not all of us were born into a place of equal opportunity. Okay? And so the miracle is, when we're settled, we're able to really explore where we're called to cultivate. And then the ultimate is that when we're settled and we're cultivating with the gifts that he's been given to us, not just working economically as we scream to go get a job as if this is an economic solution, but when we're joyfully working and we wake up in the morning and want to go to this place that we call work, it moves us into this space to care for it. And the it that God is talking about in the Garden of Eden is the Garden of Eden, to care for it. And when I've witnessed people that have been homeless, abandoned, despised, and outcast become settled in cultivating, and the garden as an example, when you take somebody that's broken and battered and they've been managing a tomato plant, and then all of a sudden there's a harvest of a tomato, not only do they get to consume that tomato, they get to take that tomato and come over to you and share the bounty of that harvest with you. And what that does is that opens up a caring relationship. It opens up the opportunity for a trusting relationship between people who may not have trusted each other, or with a community that doesn't trust. So when we're settled and we're cultivating, it flips the frame of reference. Instead of sucking on the community, they become this extraordinary contributor to the community. So now we're in the development of this 27-acre master plan community that is built around the RV community model. It's a KOA campground on steroids. It's about a $10 million project. We've had a first phase $7 million capital campaign that we have recently completed. Yeah, thanks. And we will break ground, we hope in July, but it's very imminent. All the forces are moving to that. And it will take us about 6 months to construct the facility and to begin to move our first residents out there. We've already put about $1 million into the community. I was meeting with somebody just a minute ago that had been out there yesterday. We have work events throughout the week, but the big one is every Saturday, and there could be up to 100, 150 people out there working in the gardens, working on the land, doing a myriad of things. And then at 11:30, a brunch is served from the produce that's coming out of our mini farm. We have a chicken operation that is now producing 25 dozen eggs a week. We have a rabbit operation to eat. We have a honeybee operation. We have a tilapia fish operation. And this past week, we harvested our first group of broiler chickens that from hatch to table was about 12 weeks. And the steward of hospitality, the guy that leads out, is a guy named Dennis Williamson. Currently lives on the streets and can't wait for this community to be built so that he can move into this community, because he is now embedded into what we are doing. And it's volunteers that come up alongside of him and are working with him. So the whole mini farm operation is going on. The other thing that we did was on Easter Sunday, we dedicated a space that we now call the Larry Taz Williams, named after the Tasmanian devil. And my buddy Larry had a big Taz tattoo on his arm. Larry passed away on November the 20th. Larry had been homeless on the streets. I could tell you stories about his relationship with his dad, but it was a horrible relationship, but it also was one of forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing. I was Taz's medical power of attorney and was with him on November the 20th at St. David's South as I was getting all the information from the medical staff about next steps. Made the decision, as I was authorized to do, to cease any more invasive treatments. There were about 15 of us in the room. Everybody had never been homeless before except for Larry. It was kind of an extraordinary contrast between somebody that spent most of his time on the streets, had been in and out of prison, battled drug addictions and alcoholism. And here he is being loved by this group of people, and to the point where he even entrusted one of them to make the decisions at the end of the day. He died within 15 minutes of ceasing the medical treatments. About a year and a half ago, we were out on the property and we were praying over the property. The property had some illegal activities done on it, and so we just kind of wanted to spiritually purge all that. He was out there. He couldn't walk the whole property, and he was riding around in the Polaris that we have. And he wanted to be the first resident out there, so that when it opened up, he wanted his RV to be the first one moved onto the property. When it became evident that he was going to pass away, he wanted his to be cremated and to have his ashes spread on the property. Spiritually, my faith doesn't allow for the distribution of the ashes that way. But we honored him, and on Easter Sunday, we interred his ashes in a columbarium that's now located in the Larry Taz Williams Memorial Garden, a giant $10,000 columbarium that will hold the cremated remains of 24 people made out of granite with his name etched in. And then the woman that had no arms, no legs passed away in January. That was in the video, and we interred her as well. The miracle of this action of settlement in the community, even after we pass away, it's had a profound impact on our brothers and sisters that we serve. Because, see, when you die in Austin, Texas, and most other cities, homeless and indigent, there's a statutory period of time that they keep your body. And then it's released to be buried in the Pauper Cemetery out on Tannehill Road, the Austin Travis County Cemetery. Now, the real estate is a beautiful piece of real estate, but it's a place of human discardment. And you know this when you're indigent and homeless living on the streets of Austin. Not only are you kicked to the corners, but when you die, you're going to be buried in an unmarked grave where nobody's going to be able to go and honor you. And that's not a desire that any of us have on the planet. We want to be remembered. Now people are coming into this memorial garden and they're seeing the columbarium up here with Larry's name and Peggy's name etched into it. And they're seeing the plaque that names this the Larry Taz Williams Memorial Garden. And our brothers and sisters are coming and they're going, I want to be here. Can I be here? You know, can I be cremated and be here forever? And that's what this place called Community First is all about. It's a forever place. It's a place of permanence. It's a place where you're not going to be forgotten. And this is the key to mitigating this situation that we see unfolding on our streets. That's going to get worse before it gets better because of the breakdown of the family, is by welcoming our brothers and sisters back into the community. It's not merely about housing. None of the 8 characteristics of home have anything to do with the physicality of the structure. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and God bless y'all.
Now we'll have questions, so raise your hand high so I can see you. Richard Halpin.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Alan. We appreciate the generosity of your spirit and your life with all of us. Tell us a little bit more about the Saturday event. What time does it start? Are all people welcome? And tell us about how we can find out more about it. Thank you.
First and foremost, you can actually go to our website at mlf.org/Genesis Gardens, and it describes all of our work events, and there are sign-ups at that page to kind of sign up individually. If we want to put a group together, like a group from this community of 25 to 50 people, then we would want to manage that through a volunteer coordinator that we have, so that we have lots to do when you're out there. And we love both ways. We love both those large events where people are coming in and doing serve days. We have some churches that close entirely on the weekend during the year, and they push their congregations out, into the streets, and that's something that we would welcome. And we actually there's a guy at the welcome tent. His name is Lee, and they give you 3 colored cards. One is if you're working hard.
Let's let you use the handheld mic because people are having trouble hearing.
Is that better? If you want to swing an axe, you get this card. If you want to get down on your knees and dig into the dirt, you get one of these cards. If you just kind of want to hang out and be around the hospitality thing or something else, or help distribute water, you can do this. So we try to meet you exactly where you are.
Thank you for an interesting presentation. In my formative years, I spent 2 summers in a situation where I didn't have electricity or water, once in a tent and once in a shack that looked like a double-wide outhouse. But in both cases, there was sort of a common bathroom facility where there was running water. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little more on the model you're going to be using for your new facility. Is it going to be self-standing facilities? Is it going to be shared central resources like bath facilities and water, et cetera?
So it's an RV park on steroids. There will be 100 lots that would accommodate a typical fifth wheel RV. The RVs are fully self-contained, hooked up to city water, city sewer, City of Austin electric. They will have fully functioning kitchens and restrooms and a bedroom inside of those RV. We currently own 60 of those. Most of them are planted in about a half a dozen RV communities around town. And then we have what we call the micro home community. These could either be very expensive, custom-made, canvas-sided, what we call a canvas-sided guest cottage, but a tent, a walled tent. These are $3,500 tents, by the way, so they're first class, fully furnished, built on platforms or on concrete slabs. They would have electricity, but they would not have plumbing. And then we have what we call our stick-built micro homes. We just are on the verge of completing our first two out there. The UT design one that you saw in we built at a model home village, and also over on Plenty's, the first original one over on Plenty's property at the Center for Maximum Sustainable Building Products. Those two will have electricity, but they will not have plumbing. There will be 5 centralized laundry, restroom, and shower facilities throughout the community. No microhome will be any further than 150 feet or 50 yards, half of a football field away from any. That would be the furthest away any one unit would be. And the laundry and the restroom and shower facilities are not community restroom or shower facilities. You're not going into a community shower where men are getting naked with men or women are getting naked with women, or you're not going into a community restroom where there's a bunch of urinals and stalls. You're going into a private room with a giant metal door with a bolt lock that you throw, and it's your bathroom or it's your shower facility for the time that you're in that facility.
You've spoken that in your experience you do not think that mental illness and substance abuse and dependence are causing homelessness, but we do know they are co-occur. Could you tell us how you address these difficult problems in your work with homeless people?
Yeah. In our experience, we have active addicts that live with us. I hate to use the term functional addict because it's an oxymoron. We all know this. But in our church communities, in our businesses, and in our neighborhoods, there are people that manage to live civilly and battle their problems, pay their bills, battle their problems. That's been our experience in the homeless community. The overwhelming vast majority of our residents currently pay their rent, and they live civilly and obediently in their space, even while they may be battling their addictions. I can tell you this, that the number one first line of defense for our homeless population that are battling these issues is a home first, and not the medication or rehab or any of these others. Because if we're fill them full of psychotropic drugs for some period of time, or put them through a 30-day rehab and then send them back out on the streets, it's just going to recycle. So what we've witnessed really is a tremendous level of healing by virtue of permanently coming up off the streets, where they get to make the decisions about their mental health issues and their addiction issues. Sometimes, but rarely, people will go into recovery and sustain that recovery for a long period of time. What I've witnessed most often is those people that are battling a deep addiction, the level of that addiction gets reduced dramatically. I've seen people decrease alcohol consumption by 75-80% just by the virtue of being housed, and we look at that as a victory. Mental health is the same situation. We bring them into the community. We plug them into the resources that are available to them out there. But just like you and I, they get to make their medical decisions with their doctor. So if they choose to medicate, that's a decision that's between them and their doctor. And if they choose not to medicate, that is also a decision, just like you and I, that they get to make between them and their doctor. Now, to live in our community, there are 3 covenants, and they turn out to be the exact same 3 covenants that each of us live by. Covenant number 1 that we have to make is you must pay rent, period, end of story. You got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your rent. If you're blessed to have your home paid for, you have to pay your real estate taxes, or guess what? You don't get to live there. That's how everybody lives. That's how they will live. Covenant number 2, we all must be obedient to civil law. Okay? And so if you have an addiction problem inside whatever home that you might live in, and that spills out of your home into civil disobedience, law enforcement will be called and you will be handled in that way. And then some of us live in communities where there are association other rules. To live in the city of Austin has certain rules. To live in a condo project downtown has certain rules. You might live where there's a homeowners association, and we'll have those types of rules.
Hi there, I'm Scott Butke. I'm very excited about your development. I'm curious how you're going to choose who gets to live there or who doesn't. If it's the lottery, or what you're going to do with that part.
Yeah, great question. So our ministry is targeted specifically to, by definition, a chronically homeless individual. And that is, by HUD definition, an unaccompanied male, female, no children, with a disability, having lived on the streets for a year or longer, or 4 long-term episodes of homelessness over a 3-year period of time. The only modification we make to that definition is that if you are a couple, we make no judgment about what that looks like, sleeping in the same bed, we will accommodate that. We don't allow roommates, so you and I couldn't get together and bunk. In Austin, Texas, at the most, there's about 1,000 chronically homeless people, no matter what numbers you hear published. I'm telling you right now that the number is plus or minus a couple of hundred, around 1,000 people. Our community will be able to lift somewhere between 2 to 250 people up off that streets. We believe that between this development and a subsequent development that I think we'll end up doing, that we will be able to mitigate what you and I see in terms of chronically homeless people by 50%. Pretty quick. I think, because I'm an optimist, that we can actually hit 80%. You end up on a list. We don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's really, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you fall into that definition and you end up on that list, we try to accommodate those that stay in the hunt.
My ex has been marginally homeless for probably most of the time since we divorced about 30 years ago. I think he's on your list. He's currently at the Tiny Texas Houses people, and the developer out there seems to have a somewhat similar vision of trying to get people into affordable housing. I just wonder if you and what's his name, Darius or Damon, whatever his name is, have had any sort of dialogue about your vision to get people into affordable housing.
Where is this?
I get Lockhart and Luling mixed up in my mind.
Yeah.
It's Luling, I guess, without the barbecue.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual brother. Somebody goes by brother. I think there's a guy in Caldwell between here and Bryan College Station that I've had dialogue with. Would that be familiar at all? I'm in dialogue with so many people that is very possible that we have, and I would welcome them to come and look at our community. And yeah, our list is long right now because RV lots are just not available. The economy is so strong right now that it's very difficult to get people in.
For those people that will be living there and maybe getting jobs, what are the arrangements for transportation if they don't have vehicles?
Well, Capital Metro will be driving their bus right into the middle of this community, and we are actually about a half a mile as the crow flies from the number 37 bus line, which, in my humble opinion on public transportation, is probably the best bus line connected to more grocery stores, hospitals, the downtown, the UT area, other crosstown traffic. The transportation is going to be awesome. And then when people come up off the streets, man, they go get their driver's license. We're able to help them do things that they couldn't do while they're living on the streets. And then we have a number of people that are gonzo bicycle riders that will get on that bike and ride the 8.5 miles, which sounds far to you and I, to downtown Austin, but it's not that far.
And we have a question from Felicia Conjable.
The video that you showed us, the landscape was so peaceful and soothing, and I was wondering what are your goals in preserving that among the homes and the driveways and the roads and the farm itself?
It's a 27-acre tract of land that it's got a creek running through it, so there's kind of a large floodplain area that we're already developing reflection areas along that area. The farming will probably consume 5 to 6 acres of that property, all open space. A lot of clearing has been done since that video because you have to clear, and there are an enormous number of trees on the property. But there will be concrete and there will be buildings, but when you come out there, I think she already left, but somebody was out there yesterday. I mean, this is an extraordinarily peaceful place. Yeah.
We have a question. Would you say your name and stand up?
My name is Ruthie. I just wanted to know how you came up with this idea and who you had to work with to form this development.
Well, I'm a keep it simple, stupid kind of a guy, and so 10 years ago, a buddy of mine, and I live in Westlake Hills. I'm in the middle of kind of the epicenter of wealth in the community. So a lot of my friends, my church friends, have done well. So I have a buddy of mine, one of my co-founders of Mobile Loaves and Fishes, looking at purchasing a ranch in Fredericksburg or outside Fredericksburg. He said, let's go look at this deal. And we drove out there to look at it, and there's an old deer camp, or not an old, it was an active deer camp where guys come and during the hunting season, and there was an RV there. And I jumped out of the truck, and I ran over, and I looked at that RV, and I said, I couldn't live in this one because it's too small, but I could live in something like this. And literally within a couple of months, we went out and bought our first RV, paid $5,000 for it, a fifth wheel, 32-footer. The guy that we lifted up off the street still has that RV. Almost 10 years later, it'll be 10 years in March when he and I come out of the real estate development business. That's what I was doing as a career before founding Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And then I started thinking, let's build a KOA. That's how simple it was, really. A God thing. I really attribute it to God's.
We have about 3.5 or 4 minutes left. Leslie?
Thank you. You've talked a lot about the homeless development. I know you also do feeding from mobile units downtown. What other uses for volunteers and volunteer help do you have besides out at the property?
Well, Mobile Loaves and Fishes is a 3-legged stool. You've been hearing about one leg that we call a community first. And then the truck operation, which is the foundation of our ministry, has 13 trucks in Austin, Texas that go out every night of the week, serving about 1,500 meals, and then we're in 7 cities, 6 states with that truck operation. So there's an opportunity to come in and prepare meals and load the trucks at 8 different commissaries around Austin. One of them not that far from here, right up the road on Burnett Road at St. Louis Catholic Church. You could also go out on the streets and serve. You could do something as simple as boiling eggs and bringing them to us. That's the most popular food item on the truck. We call a boiled egg a hermetically sealed nutritional bullet. And despite what they tried to sell us on a few years ago. And then we have something called Roads, which is a micro business model. And it begins with the theory that, we could yell out of our tinted windshield for the guys to go get a job. But the reality is they're not going to, and they're not employable the way that you and I conventionally look at that. They're not going to go to work at McDonald's or Walmart, and put in an 8-hour day. It's just not going to happen. It turns out that they're little entrepreneurs. And but in our country, we're actually on the verge of outlawing entrepreneurialism. As the most egregious example of that, in 80% of our urban communities today, including Austin, Texas, it's against the law to have a lemonade stand. And so what we've done is we've developed a number of micro businesses that include mobile vending carts, and we become the blockers and tacklers to the insidious regulatory process that's here in this country today that prohibits somebody from entering this country and roasting chestnuts to go sell them to build their life up. Or in our modern day, to go to Sam's Club and buy prepackaged blow plops and peddle them downtown, but it's legal to panhandle. And so we have a workshop. We have an art house producing phenomenal art, and we do art shows about every 6 weeks for those that have that kind of creative flair. We have a welding and a forging deal now where these guys are creating things. And then we have a number of other ideas that are going to really work when we get the community, when we get people settled to cultivate, not cultivate and then get settled.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your story. And I think you're providing some optimism, and you've helped us understand, I think, how people fall into homelessness and potentially what can be done to help many people, and there but for the grace of God go many of us. Thank you again.